I love to learn, even outside of a school setting. So let's talk about how we can keep learning throughout our lives. Fair warning, I think this is going to be a long video, so get yourself a drink and a snack before you start. I'll wait here. Let's start with the most obvious option, books. Of course, if you want to learn outside of a school setting, you can read some nonfiction. For example, right now, I'm reading Discovering the Mammoth by John J. McKay, which is about, well, discovering the mammoth. There are a plethora of ways to get your hands on nonfiction books. You can buy a physical book, of course, and if you do, I would recommend buying through your local independent bookstore. You could also get an ebook or an audiobook, and I really recommend audiobooks. I've talked about my general love of audiobooks on this platform before, but audiobooks are my favorite way to read nonfiction. As a slow reader and an audio learner, audiobooks really get facts into my head better than a physical book does. You can also get all these formats, physical, digital, and audio, from your library. We all know you can get a physical book at a library, but many libraries also have access to digital collections, like Missouri Libraries to Go, which gives you a ton more items. And if your library doesn't have what you're looking for, ask about interlibrary loan. But books aren't the only way to learn. I also recommend magazines. No, you're not going to learn any science or history from Us Weekly, but you will if you read Smithsonian or Archaeology or National Geographic. I used to subscribe to Smithsonian, actually, which is why I have this copy here, but I stopped my subscription because we get it at, you guessed it, my library. At mine, you can check magazines out and take them home for 2 weeks, but ask at the main desk at your library. Your library may also have access to digital magazines, and many magazines make much of their content available online anyway for free. These magazines translate dense academic texts into understandable, accessible language for the rest of us. For more academic texts, you can request copies via interlibrary loan, ask about access to something like JSTOR or EBSCO through your library's digital research databases, or check out the directory of open access journals linked below. Even JSTOR has some open access content. There are also blogs. Again, not every blog is educational. That's not to be critical of other types of blogs, by the way, they're just not my topic today. There are, however, a ton of educational and informational blogs out there. Some are run by institutions like museums, and others by academics like Christina Kilgrove, a bioanthropologist I've followed online since I was a wee 19-year-old taking my first bioanthropology class and spending 3 hours of class discussion on what is science. Oh, the good old days. Seriously, that was the best class. I recommend a class like that if you're in college. Others are run by people outside of academia who just love a topic and want to share the information they know and learn about it. Bonus, these blogs often include sources for their information, which gives you even more to learn. This video is about learning outside of a school structure, but I have to take a moment to suggest classes, workshops, and presentations. Class doesn't have to mean school. You can take classes on a variety of subjects at a local community college, but you can also find classes, workshops, and presentations at some museums, historical sites, large libraries, or community centers. Depending on what you want to learn, you may actually want to look even further afield. Do you want to learn to flint knap? Check your local archaeological site for workshops. Do you want to learn to weave? Check local craft stores. Do you want to learn to do your own taxes, even if they're complicated? Check a community center. There may be an accountant running a workshop. While we're still talking offline, I have to take a moment to discuss educational TV and documentaries. It can be hard to find truly educational TV shows at the moment, and not ones that claim to be educational while really discussing conspiracy theories or disparaging ancient cultures and their creations. But they are out there. National Geographic, Smithsonian Channel, PBS, and the Science Channel all still put out really interesting educational TV. And much of it is available on demand on their apps, websites, and YouTube channels. Seriously, Smithsonian Channel puts up full hour-long features on their YouTube channel. As for documentaries, if you look for one about your topic of interest, you're gonna find one. They're being produced all the time, and there's one for everybody. We're moving back into online media with podcasts. There are a ton of podcasts out there that can teach you something, from mythology or ancient history to science or forensic investigation techniques. In particular, I recommend Explore a Story, that's ancient history, and Lore, but that's just a tiny dip into the educational podcast pond. For more, I have a video about nonfiction podcasts from 2 years ago, and stay tuned for an upcoming video about educational podcasts. We already talked about in-person classes, but now that we're back in online media, I want to highlight online classes. In particular, I'm talking about Skillshare. Skillshare is just one of the many online learning platforms, but to me it seems to be the most user-friendly. I like that there are both free and paid options, and I like that the classes I've looked at seem to be broken up into smaller chunks, making it easier for those of us with, jobs and lives to keep our brains working. Skillshare offers classes in everything from creative arts to business to technology, and seemingly everything else as well. Personally, I want to take Creative Personal Writing by Ashley C. Ford after the exhausting period of summer reading program is finished. For the record, because they have sponsored other creators, this video is not sponsored by Skillshare or anyone else for that matter, just me. But if you're interested in their paid classes, I'm sure you can find someone's discount code pretty easily through the YouTube search. I also want to highlight online lectures. We've all heard of TED Talks, which are great, but they're not the only online lecture series. Lots of institutions, like my lifelong love, the American Museum of Natural History in New York, post lectures online, as do some academics independent of their institutions. I recommend Macalester College's Write Well series. You know where a lot of those lectures are hosted? My beloved YouTube. There are a ton of educational channels out there. Just to name a few: The Brain Scoop, It's Okay to Be Smart, The Art Assignment, Crash Course, PBS Eons, How to ADHD, and Katie Morton. And that's just a sampling. There are tons more just waiting for you to click so they can teach you something really cool. I'm always on the lookout for more, so in the comments tell me who your favorites are. I might make a whole video about my favorite educational creators in the fall or winter, so also tell me if you're interested in that. And that's finally it. I know that was probably a super long video, at least it felt super long while I've been filming. So thanks for sticking with me. If you've made it this long, you're a superhuman. In the description, I'll have a ton of links for you for all the things I've talked about today. Thank you for watching, I hope you're well. Bye.